Perspective on Florida Gateway College Television is sponsored by Potash Corp of White Springs. Potash Corp, helping nature provide.
Hello everyone and welcome to Perspective. This is a public affairs presentation of Florida Gateway College. My name is Mike McKee and my guests on the program today are Paul Crawford. He is the Regional Director of the Guardian Ad Litem program for the Northwest region of the state of Florida, and Wendy Cruz, who works for Florida Gateway College but is also a volunteer in the Guardian Ad Litem program. We'll talk about what the Guardian Ad Litem program does, how it protects children going through the court system, and how you can be a part of that. We'll do that when we come back. Don't go away.
Ballerina.
Sometimes all it takes to be a dad is remembering how to be a kid again. Take time to be a dad today.
Welcome back to Perspective here on Florida Gateway College Television. I was mentioning Guardian Ad Litem is our program for this evening. Paul Crawford is the Regional Director for the organization, and Wendy Cruz is a volunteer. Welcome to the program. Paul, it's been a long time since you've been on the We've got a new set here and a new building, and but we want to talk about Guardian Ad Litem and how important this program is. Number one, it's Guardian Ad Litem is hard to understand. So if you would, explain what a Guardian Ad Litem is.
Sure, thank you, Mike. The Guardian Ad Litem program becomes involved in a dependency case at the time a child is sheltered or removed from their family due to abuse and neglect. The role of the Guardian Ad Litem is to represent the best interest of that child. We're appointed by the judge at the initial hearing. The way we work as an advocacy team. We have a volunteer, such as Wendy, that is the key person that actually goes out and visits the children in their wherever they're living at the time, checks to make sure nothing falls through the cracks, any of their medical needs, follows to make sure they're doing okay in school with their education and so forth. And that's the person that actually knows the child the best, is our advocate volunteer.
Well, let me ask you about, now this is both parents. This child is being taken out of the home, so they no longer have parents who are caring for them. Now where do they go? They go to a shelter, or they go to foster care, or what happens to that child?
A lot of them are placed with relatives, a grandparent, aunt, uncle, but there are many that there is no suitable place to put them with a relative, so they will go into foster care.
Now, when you mentioned the parent, or not the parent, but the relative, that becomes a non-objective person in a case like that, because one of the grandparents is either the parent of the husband or the wife. So this is where Guardian Ad Litem becomes a fair assessment of what the child's best interests are.
That's correct, and that's the way that we'll work. The court appoints, of course, an attorney for the parents. Each one of the parents have an attorney. The Department of Children and Families attorney represents the state's interest, and we're appointed to represent that best interest directly for the child. We focus on the child, what is best for them and the outcome of the case, whether they be reunified back with their parents, the parents' rights be terminated and they be adopted or what. But that's our only focus, is we're there for that child.
So, Paul, the situation where these children, they're in pretty bad shape. I mean, they're in a pretty terrible situation to be in.
Yes. By the time it comes to the point, usually, that the child has to be removed from their caregivers, they've already been through different types of services, been put in place with the family in the home, or as some type of abuse where the safety of the child requires that they be removed from that home.
So this is, and the reason you're here is you need volunteers to do the job of the Guardian Ad Litem.
Definitely. There's been a big increase in the number of children that have been removed from their families over the past 6 months and in the past year, but especially in the past 6 months. There's been, right now we have a need for 166 children throughout the 3rd Judicial Circuit that we don't have a volunteer to advocate on their behalf. Right here in Columbia County, there are 70 children that needs a volunteer. And so, you know, we're in an urgent need for volunteer advocates.
Now, this is the 3rd Judicial Circuit. There are several circuits in the state. Each of the circuits in the state has a guardian ad litem office where they appoint. But this district is Suwannee, Columbia, Hamilton, Madison, Taylor, Dixie,
And Lafayette.
and Lafayette. Okay, so there are a lot of children. You said 160 kids are currently.
That's how many actually that we need a volunteer for. Actually, just in this circuit, there's 504 children in the dependency system right now.
Now, is this an unusually high number? It seems like you guys are scrambling to try to get volunteers. There's like an influx of, you know, what's going on?
One thing that has changed is there was a series of deaths, and I know that y'all are aware of with the media scrutiny of the Department of Children and Families. So they've changed to a methodology where they review abuse cases, and I think that has resulted in more children being removed from their caregivers to make sure that the child is safe. Some areas have gone up and some areas have gone down, and Dixie County and Columbia County are two of the areas that have really increased in the number of children removed.
Yeah, you read a headline where a child kills a sibling in the home, and you've got, now these kids are taken away from the parents, so these are the type of children that you're seeing more and more of.
Yes, and a lot of the cases involve neglect. There's a serious issue with substance abuse in our area, and the families aren't able to take care of their children. Domestic violence is another big issue. Usually there's always a component, or not always, but quite often a component of substance abuse and domestic violence that leads to the children being abused and neglected.
Wendy, you got to have a big heart to do something like this. What made you decide to become a volunteer guardian ad litem?
I actually had learned about the guardian ad litem program in Pinellas County, which is where I came from, and never acted on it. I had small children of my own, but now that my children are grown, I decided I needed to do something with my time and give back to this community. And I came across the guardian ad litem program at the fair and signed up and have been doing it ever since. It's been a wonderful opportunity.
No, you just can't go in and be a guardian. You have to do, there's some training that you have to go through. How involved is the training for those who may be interested in doing it?
I went through 40 hours of training initially, and then there's training ongoing that is available every month. And at least at the end of the year, you had to have been through an additional 12 hours of training, and it covered a tremendous amount of things that I was unaware of in the process. I really didn't know a whole lot about it when I got involved, and they teach you what you need to know. And then there are mentors for the volunteers along the way, and they let you ride with them, so you see how that works out. And what your role really is going to be in the court system.
Now, you don't have to be a lawyer or in law enforcement. Your background is in the medical field,
EMS,
so you don't. There's nothing that says you can't do it because you don't have that kind of background.
It was certainly not required. Anybody that cares about children, that is willing to put in somewhere between 2 and 5. I mean, you can do as much time as you want, but you have to see your kids at least once a month, and then you have to write a report based on that. So really 2 hours would be the minimum, although I have more time, so I spend more time with my kids.
Now, how many cases are you doing right now?
I currently have 4 cases and a total of 11 children, but there are several that have 3 children in each case. So
Wow.
I spend a lot of time, and in the summertime I have the opportunity to take them skating, we go to the movies, so I really need to get to know these kids. Most of my kids are older and old enough to make some decisions for themselves about what they really want to have happen in their lives, and that is a piece of what we have to report back to the courts. Why would this be in their best interest, having what they want? Because sometimes what they want isn't always in their best interest, but we still take it into consideration and then help them understand if that's not what's going to happen. We help them understand why that can't happen or isn't going to happen. So we really have a bigger role than just the courts, because we do have that bond with the children and we can help them adjust.
Now, are you taught to ask certain questions of children to find out what's really, because sometimes kids will put up barriers, especially children who are in situations where they've had to put barriers up to survive because they're being abused or neglected by their parents. Are there questions that you ask to really dig into what's going on?
No. If a child reveals abuse, there is actually a state law that says that they can only be interviewed so many times, and so we don't delve into those. Now I ask them questions about school and how things are going, how they're feeling, a lot of those kinds of things. But if they volunteer information, you learn how to listen, but we don't get into really investigating.
Now, what we did, because sometimes showing video is more effective in letting people know just exactly what a guardian ad litem is, we actually did a recreation of a courtroom here in Columbia County. Let's roll that video and describe, again, for those who are not familiar, this is the Columbia County Courthouse in downtown, and this is one of the courtrooms. If you've never been to the Columbia County Courthouse, a lot of people don't go because, bad things are occurring because you're in court. But the courthouse is beautiful when they redid it a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. Now, here's the situation. Now, you've got a guardian speaking on behalf of a child. Just looking at this picture of a little child like this is kind of scary.
Yeah, it is. That's one thing. They encourage now for the children to actually go to court and be a part of the hearing. It's their lives that we're making decisions about, and so they like for them to be there. This situation is a child. In the real case, we would actually have the guardian ad litem volunteer, the attorney, and a staff member there. The judges are always very good at listening to the child, what they would like to have the court know about their situation.
Of course, and for those, this is a little girl. She's an actor portraying a child.
Absolutely.
Actually, she's doing a very good job of being a child in this scene that we've got here. But I mean, look how, if I was a child that age, this would be a scary place for me.
Well, it's a scary feeling and an awkward situation for adults. So especially a child, and it's traumatic to be removed from your family and your parents and all. So you're already scared and you don't know what to expect. But we try to prepare them ahead of time and let them know, this is the judge and the attorney, and they'll talk to you and ask questions and so.
Wendy, how often do you go to court? Is it just depending on how the case is going, whether a court date is scheduled?
Dependency court occurs twice a month, and if the volunteer has a case that is being heard, they have the opportunity to attend. If they can't, then the staff will be there to cover for them. I usually have the opportunity to attend court. One of the things that the big important piece that you develop the relationship with the child is so that when you can attend court and they're there, they have a comfort zone because they're not alone.
And I understand that this is a little room that the judge can take the child into it
with
to
their volunteer.
Be out of the public.
Right.
So, because the general public, I'm sure, has the ability to attend these hearings.
Yes, it's an open courtroom, and you can have anybody there. And so, a lot of times, it's best if you do take the child back in the
because there may be some
here.
embarrassing things that are revealed
Absolutely, yeah.
that a judge would not want the general, just out of courtesy to the child.
On top of that, a part of the problem for the child is that they develop a relationship with the caregiver, and maybe their life is actually a little better with the caregiver, so they don't really want to say things in front of mom or dad that aren't, there's emotionally they're very torn.
So the parents are in these hearings as well.
Yes.
Which makes it doubly hard that here you are speaking about something that maybe mom and dad did to you in open court.
Correct.
That's going to get mom and dad in trouble.
Right.
So they take them privately, so mom and dad are not entitled to know exactly what they said to the judge. And that's another bonus of the relationship between the volunteer and the child, is that it's confidential.
Paul, do some of these things get ugly? Because if you're looking at, parents that are getting divorced, now you're having your children taken away from you.
Yeah.
Emotionally, it's got to be really, really tough on individuals. People are human, so. But if the situation is bad, it's got to be done.
It is, and that's one thing that we're always want to make sure that our volunteers know, is that we're concerned about their safety. And when you are involved in a situation where somebody's children have to be removed from them, it is very emotional, it's traumatic for the family, the child, everyone. But we always want to make sure that the guardians know that they're safe. In most cases, at the point that we get involved in it, we emphasize that our role is just what is best for that child. That's what we're focusing on, and most of the parents understand that and should want what is best for their children, the outcome to be. The volunteer will monitor the parents' progress towards completing their case plan goals, and whether they have to attend substance abuse or domestic violence classes or whatever, and report that as part of their report back to the court and make recommendations. But fortunately, we haven't had any incidences where our volunteers or any of our staff have been threatened or harmed in any way. But that's something that we're definitely aware of.
Is this for good? I mean, or do parents retake custody of their children at some point?
Most of them return. Most of them are reunified back with their parents.
After going through some sort of
services
that get them off drugs or get them into
that's correct.
a timeout room instead of doing domestic violence.
Parenting skills, different things like this, and as long as whatever brought the child in the situation into court is resolved, then that child can be safely returned home. And we know that's the best overall for the parents to be raising their own children, not the state raising the children. So the Department of Children and Family does everything they can to make sure that when they are reunified back with the parents, it'll be successful. There are some cases where the parents just aren't successful and can't get the children back, and their parental rights are terminated, and the children are free for adoption, or they're placed in permanent guardianship with a relative or someone else.
Unfortunately, some people just weren't meant to be parents in our society. You hate to say that, but that's the truth. Wendy, you got to have you're going to be a special kind of person to do this, because your emotions kind of get torn around a little bit with the abuse you see and the fact that these are innocent children.
It can be emotional, and there have been times where I've wanted to take some children home, but that's actually not even allowed. So there is no circumstance where the guardian ad litem can bring the children to their own home, because there is a line that can't be crossed. But it is much more rewarding than it is tugging at your heart in a bad way.
And you're making a difference to these kids, and it's good it's terrible we have to have a program like this, but it's good that there are volunteers that are willing to volunteer their time and go into these child's lives. A video was produced by the Guardian Ad Litem National Office, and the local office here in the 3rd Judicial Circuit kind of redid it a little bit with some information on how you can become a volunteer Guardian Ad Litem. Let's roll that tape.
I am for the child who has been abused, the child who is afraid to go home,
who thinks it's her fault, who is forced to keep a secret or else.
I am for the child who has been neglected,
the child who does not know where his next meal is coming from,
who must fend for herself and her little sister.
Alone. The child who has never been to a doctor or a dentist.
I am for the child who was taken away
for her own protection.
The child who is now in foster care, who does not know how long he'll be there.
Or who these people are.
Or if she should trust them. I am for her.
The child who is in his third,
fourth, fifth,
sixth foster home this year.
The child who has attended 4 schools in 2 years.
Who sits in back of yet another class surrounded by strangers.
Believing in his heart that no one
cares. I am for her. The child who has never been told
that he is loved.
That she is smart, beautiful,
talented,
worthy.
That she is strong,
courageous.
That she is somebody. I am for her.
The child who one day will turn 18 and will be surrendered to the world.
I am for that child.
So I am there for that child.
To listen to her.
To speak for her.
To champion without compromise for what's in his best interest.
Because if I
am there for her, I know she will be half as likely to languish in foster care.
And that much more likely to find a safe, permanent home.
She is the child I am for.
He is the child I am for.
They are the children I am for.
She is the child I am for.
The child I am for is him.
Who am I?
Who am I?
Who am I?
I am a volunteer child advocate.
I am you.
That's just about all the information you need about the guardian ad litem. But Paul, I wanted to ask you, are there any age requirements to be a volunteer?
You have to be 21 years old to be a certified volunteer. You can become a volunteer at 19 if you're assigned with another certified volunteer. We also, we have a lot of team volunteers, a husband and wife teams that like to volunteer together, mothers and daughters, brother and sister couple that work a case together. So the minimum age to be certified is 21.
I'm sure you have to go through a background check.
Yes, you have to complete the level 2 background check, and we've revamped our training just a little bit since Wendy went through it, and it's in 3 phases. It's about 30 hours. The first phase is independent study, where you can do it online. There's reading assignments and case studies that you go through and learn about the dependency system. The second part is actual classroom interaction, teaching different things. And then the third part is field training, where you are going on visits with a mentor volunteer or a staff. You're actually attending court and going to staffings with the other child welfare agencies and stuff, where we go with you during that time. So that's actually the new training module. And like you mentioned before, Mike, we have people from all different backgrounds. We have people, from the education system, medical system. I'm retired from the Department of Corrections, and I got involved as a volunteer before I became working. But you don't have to have a child welfare social working background or a legal background to do it. What you have to do is have a heart and care for children and advocate on what's best for that child.
And they need volunteers, so they'll put you to work if you're a retiree and are looking for something to do. This is perfect for a retiree, because you probably do. You could, if you want one case, or if you want as many as you've got, you can.
We try to keep it around 2 cases, And you know, and that may be a lot more than 2 children. Like I said, we've had sibling groups of up to 9 children in one sibling group that have been removed. So we definitely need more volunteers. The fewer cases that a volunteer has, the more time they can spend with that individual child and get to know that child better and make a recommendation for the judge to have more information he can make a decision about.
Guardian Ad Litem is a United Way agency, so donations to the United Way go to help the Guardian Ad Litem program. There's also a group called Voices for Children, which is the fundraising arm of Guardian Ad Litem. And Wendy, you said they raise money. Tell the story real quick about the child who needed glasses.
Yes, I have a child who, 13 years old, already got glasses this year. Medicaid, excuse me, is only willing to pay for 1 set of glasses per year, and unfortunately he'd already broken them, so the Voices for Children picks up the cost so that the caregiver, because caregiver funds don't cover things like that.
So if you'd like to make a donation or if you'd like to volunteer for Guardian Ad Litem, your telephone number at the Guardian Ad Litem office?
Our Lake City office here is 758-1170. Live Oak office is 386-364-7720. Perry office is 850-584-2159. And there's a statewide number that you can call, 1-866-341-1425. Any area in Florida where you call this toll-free number, it'll connect you through the local office in that circuit. So you can make that call.
Let's see if we can't get some volunteers to be calling you up and get the kids who need the help, get the help they need from the Guardian Ad Litem program. Thank you both for being on the program.
Yeah. Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
And thank you for watching Perspective here on Florida Gateway College Television. Till next time, I'm Mike McKee. So long.